Please welcome Dr. Diana Gehlhaus to the stage from Mitre.
Thanks. Oh, that is loud. Can you all hear me okay? It is wonderful to be here today. Thanks so much for sticking it out with me on day 3 of this amazing expo. Shout out to Ryan Carpenter for organizing all of this AI Plus Careers goodness for 3 full days. I'm told there have been some phenomenal talks, and I am honored to be here to be part of this conversation. There is so much going on with AI Plus Careers, and I actually want to tackle one of the conversations that has been all over the news, especially in the past week. But first, it is AI Plus Careers, and so I'm not going to read the slide, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I was actually advised to do this slide by my current job as a way to network, because I work for a large organization and I wanted to meet people in the Mitre community, and somebody suggested, hey, you should put an intro slide together. Here's mine. It's much better than sending somebody your resume, and then like it's a great entree point to go get coffee and have a conversation. And part of me was slightly irritated by like, oh, I don't want to put my personal stuff out there. Nobody cares. It's boring. But I can't tell you how handy this slide has actually turned out to be. I've used it in a whole bunch of different contexts. So if you don't have an intro slide, and there's me at Expo last year, I would strongly recommend, as you are continuing to build your network, as you're continuing to build your community, just put one together, because we all have a story. You're not boring. We want to hear about you, love learning about you, seeing points of other connectivity other than our professional interests. So putting that out there, and really proud to be a new dog mom, inherited dog mom. Okay. Great, so I wanted to talk to you about the jobs apocalypse, because this is the AI Plus Expo. We're at AI Plus Careers. How can we not talk about the impending gloom and doom, or the so-called jobs apocalypse that's been all over the news? And obviously, as an enthusiast who thinks a lot about tech and talent, who's thought a lot about the AI workforce, break, if you've never seen me before in your life, I think a lot about the AI workforce, and I have for going on 8 years. So this topic is very near and dear to me, and it is splashing all over the news in terms of what's happening with AI. And I want to start by saying the range is quite wide right now, right? People are saying it's a jobs apocalypse. You had the CEO of Anthropic come out and make a pretty stunning proclamation about what's going to happen with unemployment and job displacement over the next like 3 to 5 years. So not even 2040, but like 2027. And then you've got economists, which I proudly have grown up in the dismal science. A lot of economists say, like, this is nothing to see here. This is the business cycle. Everybody's overreacting. You're all getting on the latest tech fad, just like everybody said automation was going to displace jobs, and guess what? Employment is as high as ever. So I just want to say that there is this huge, and the more recent conversation too about entry-level workers being particularly affected because of the news cycle that's showing that college graduates are having a really hard time in the job market. And it's important to put that in context. It's true and. So what can we actually say? And I'm happy to engage here. I don't want to be a sage on a stage. I just put these slides together to help me stay on point. But if you have thoughts, opinions, I know this, I know the answer to this, here's my perspective, like, please raise your hand, and like, I would love to hear your perspective, having been here, having seen the demos, having heard the amazing cadre of panels and keynotes that have come through this hall in the last couple of days. Here's my take. My take is it's always gray, it's always in the middle. I started out my career doing employment projections for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I know that it's gray. This is a gray area, and so when we have such a spectrum of nothing to see here, business cycle, and jobs are going to get completely displaced, and we need to bring the universal basic income conversation back on the table, It's going to be somewhere in the middle. The question is where and at what part of the spectrum, and that's where a lot of the policy decisions we make today are going to drive where exactly we fall on that spectrum. I truly believe that. I don't think we're going to end up on either way. I think AI is a fundamentally different general purpose technology than before, and we need to really be thinking about policies that are going to help us set for success. So what can we say today? We can say today that the pace of AI advancements is very rapid, very much so relative to other general purpose technologies, and the rate that people are using them, the rate that they are being embedded passively that we don't even realize we're in our devices, they're in our choice architecture. We don't even see it. It's keeping our financial transactions secure. So there's a lot of ways that AI is already impacting our daily lives that we don't even know, let alone the active piece where we are actually engaging with some of these AI tools. And the advancement, the accuracy, the barrier to entry to be able to use and access these tools has gone down a lot, right? So these aren't super expensive to access. They're very powerful. We're slowly flirting with them to see the kinds of things we can do, right? But it's happening at a much faster rate. So that we can say full stop. I don't think anybody can argue with that one. And it's already having an impact on how a lot of us are doing our work. I think there are early warning indicators. I don't think that it's a nothing to see here. I think when economists give you nationally aggregated statistics, that is not fair because there is always a lot of nuance, and you all know there's always something under the hood. So I think you need to unpack the argument a bit, and that's where the human ingenuity comes into mind, right? Like we need to be able to, skill will never go away, for the record. What are we actually being fed? What does it mean? What should we be unpacking? What questions should we be asking? I put this chart here because I want to show you that there are some trends that are not in line with the national average. So you've got, yes, job postings, for example, so an indicator of demand. Job postings have gone down. However, some of these white-collar occupations that are early warning indicators, given how AI is impacting the workforce that we already know, suggest that perhaps some of these white-collar occupations, like software developers, like in finance, where you see job postings have gone down below the national average. That's worth noting. That's worth following. I don't think that you can explain some of these trends on the business cycle alone. Yes, the business cycle has been a factor. I have a slide for that. But it is not enough. We can't just say, oh, they overhired because of COVID. There's more that's happening now. And so I really think that it's important to put all of this in context. And then I posit, and I really don't think that our education and workforce policies are setting us for success. There is a lot of change that is on the horizon, and I don't think in either dimension we have figured it out, and I think that's going to potentially have a negative impact. And I just want to point out here, what do I mean by this is not just the normal business cycle? These are employment charts. They're a little bit ugly, I apologize, but they tell you something. Look at the timing. This is not COVID, right? This is, you've got two large tech sectors, and then you've got an example, another white-collar sector of accounting. And I put accounting on here. This is the industry, so there's lots of occupations in the accounting industry. But when you think about accountants, and this is an example that's used a lot of, oh, automation didn't kill accountants, they said it was going to. Okay, however, now you've got actual tools that can do and support a lot of the work that these professionals were doing in a way that these tools couldn't before. So you're going to see different dynamics. And in fact, if you're telling me that there's a shortage of some of these white-collar professions because of artificially high barriers to entry, like the CPA exam, right? Perhaps now, as the cost of these tools comes down and the availability of these tools becomes more ubiquitous, Now the calculus changes for whether or not I'm going to invest in hiring more accountants and putting them through the CPA, or if I'm going to leverage technology and have fewer accountants. The calculus changes. That's what I'm suggesting here. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Ryan, I know I'm a little bit low on time. So I'm going to just start to, okay. I want to put in the business perspective because I think a lot of conversations about the future of work are coming, and it's an important perspective from the education perspective or from the union perspective or general workforce development. I think that's critical, but there is a huge dimension here, and this is where the economists come back in to try to put a rain cloud on the party, to say, hey, there's a lot of uncertainty here because it really depends on the rate of diffusion, right? It depends on how businesses adopt this technology. What they don't appreciate is that it's happening in multiple ways. Where we are as consumers indicating preferences, right? Because when you have an economy, supply and demand, what are consumers indicating in terms of preference? What kinds of ways are they? How are we spending our money? What are we demanding? And then you also have from the production side, what am I bringing to bear that consumers want? How am I going to maximize my profit at low costs, right? And so you have to think about industrial organization. You have to think about the rate of advancement, the rate of diffusion. You have to think about the rate of job creation. You have to think about a lot of the dynamics in terms of how employers are structuring their organization. There are a lot of micro considerations at the organizational level that need to happen for AI to really transform the workforce. There are also a lot of macro considerations in terms of industrial policy, industrial organization, right? So thinking about how the organization is structured, what the incentive alignment is, how much employees are empowered to use AI tools, where that nexus happens between what the role and responsibility is of the person and what the role and responsibility is of the tools that they can leverage. And I think I had that on another slide about, oh, no, I have that on the next slide. So anyway, I'll just say here that there are a lot of factors, right? And then I generated that with AI. I want to bring in the federal perspective just because I think there is so much that is happening right now with the federal workforce being right here in Washington, D.C., that is actually also going to shape this conversation. And so bringing that dimension in, whether we asked for it or we didn't ask for it, I'm not saying either way. Happy to answer questions as to what I think is going on here. But we're in the middle of a great experiment. And I think we'll learn a lot of lessons here in terms of what AI can actually do at this point and where it's still very much a nascent capability. How people are spending their time and what tasks are inherently human. I think we're getting a lot of data, and I think there's going to be a big push to accelerate AI adoption in the federal space across mission sets. That will be very interesting to see how this all goes and how this all plays out. It will be very insightful in terms of upskilling the workforce and what works and what doesn't. It will be very insightful for labor law, frankly. It will be very insightful for how we can get to skills-based hiring and the frameworks we need to have. One of the things I'm doing at Mitre is working on an AI work role framework that could be applied across the federal government as part of their AI Scholarship for Service program. This was congressional legislation. The program is not officially online. But there's a lot of factors here, and there is at the same time already data that we can learn from what's happening in the Department of Defense when it comes to data and AI talent management, especially in the Army. Happy to answer questions about that too. Where do I think we're going to end up? I think that we are going to see STEM redefined. I think STEM is a World War II construct, as I almost fall off the stage. I think it's a Sputnik era, National Defense Education Act 1.0 idea that has served us very well, but if we keep ourselves limited to an old construct of education and workforce policy, we are not going to set for success in the way that I think other countries are already doing. And that has a lot of implications. So back to the idea that I do not think our policies are set for success. I just want to leave you with this because I could imagine a different way that we even talk about the workforce, that we even talk about the education. And frankly, I think a lot of the AI education policies are like 3 years behind at this point. So a lot of work to do. Not a jobs apocalypse right now. However, it is worth having these conversations and to not dismiss it as business cycle, because I think that's false and a disservice to the broader competitive and economic questions of our time. So I'm going to stop there. Ooh, question, and I think I'm low on time. Yes, can I take one question? One question? Oh, great question. I love AI plus X. So, and X plus AI. So this is multidisciplinary because it's not just AI. It's AI is applied to something. And so when I say X plus AI, to me, that's the practitioner. I am a finance professional, I am a healthcare professional, and I am using AI on my job, so I have to understand AI, right? I am a subject matter expert in this discipline, but I'm using AI to help me do my job. And then the other piece is that more exquisite piece of the R&D innovation workforce piece, where you're like, I am primarily an AI researcher and I am applying it to X problem, right? So it's a little bit of a different nuance here, and the education you'd need is different for that. But anyway, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Happy to answer questions, and really hope that we can continue this discussion. So thanks so much.